And another day. Here we go again. Here we go again on our own. Oh, guys. See, folks are coming in, just getting started on the day. Oh, it's Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. Alex, good morning. First, I think, in the hopper. Can't see your comment yet. Still coming through. There it is. Good morning, Alex. Top of the morning to you, as they say off in Ireland. We got a lot going on today. We got a lot to talk about today. We're going into the first part of building a lab, getting a lab put together. And we have to have this. It's going to be important as we move forward. We try testing out different tools and different things that are going to help us do our job. So, regardless of where we work, if we're at risk, we're in security, we're in cyber, we got to have a lab. Yeah. Alex saying, it's taken a minute to get from the YouTubes to the actual place where I can put it on the screen. This light, I got a light in the way. I can't see. There we go. That helps better. That helps a little bit. So, we do have a lot to get through today. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got the gaming industry under attack. Cats and dogs living together. What is next? So gaming, the gaming world, the gaming titans. These guys have made billions of dollars selling games. Are under attack by the same folks as getting everyone else. Same people. So we'll talk about that for a minute. Talk about what day it is. Your holiday of the day. Your holiday. You got to know what holiday it is. And we'll jump into part uno, of building our cyber lab, our security lab, our test lab, our protected space, where we're going to do our testing and not get in trouble. It's important to have that. We got to have a place that we can go to, that we can do this. We can work on training, learn how to use these tools without getting in trouble. That's the last thing we want to do. And back in the good old days, or the bad old days, or the scary old days, folks, when they want to learn security, some of the top guys would go out there and they would just mess around on the real network. Kevin Mitnick, Kevin Pollack, all these guys would go out. Even Steve Jobs. I mean, Steve Jobs, when he was coming up, they would do beige boxing. They would do exploitation of the phone system. They would get free calls. They did this kind of thing. That's how they learned. That's the no-go today. Don't do that today. Today you go to jail. Things have changed. The world has changed. You can't go learning these security tools on the internet, on somebody's network you don't have. So what do? How do we learn how to use these tools? I want to learn how to use Nmap. I want to learn how to use Nessus. I want to learn how to use Metasploit. How do I go about doing that? You got to build a lab. And we're going to show you how to build a lab for free. Hopefully you have, and it's going to depend, what you can do in the lab is going to depend on what kind of hardware you have, right? And we're going to talk about that this morning. The hardware that you have available to you is going to determine what you can do. But just about any modern computer is going to do the basics, the bare minimum of what we're going to need to do. And we're going to talk about that this morning, and we're just going to get started on building the lab this morning. We're not going to finish it because we just don't have time. So we're going to get started. We're going to kick it off. So that's what we're going to talk about. So what is your day today? Before we get into the meat and potatoes of things, today is Sesame Street Day, and I'm going to tell you how to get there. We're still trying to figure out how to get there. Sesame Street Day. I put a link in the show notes from Momsville, USA. Fabulous Momsville, USA. Sesame Street Day is November 10th. Yeah. Bert, Ernie, Oscar the Grouch, Cookie Monster, Grover, and Big Bird debuted November 10th, 1949. They're still trying to learn how to count. I guess our political officials on both sides of the house could learn from them. I think, as we try to close out this election, guys, come on. But it wasn't until 2009 that they actually got their own day of recognition. It isn't exactly a national day, but enough people celebrate a specific day, it becomes an informal day of recognition. So today we're looking back, a couple tips. There's some things you didn't know that is on the this webpage from Momsville. Did you know, for example, number one, did you know Oscar the Grouch was originally orange? Crazy. All these guys, all the Sesame Street Muppets have 4 fingers, except for Cookie Monster, who has 5. Lots of good little 9 things you didn't know about Sesame Street. Momsville, taking care of you. Yeah. This is a good one to have when we talk about binary math. Binary math. We'll talk about that soon. Binary math's important. That's that's a concept we got to learn. So Sesame Street Day. Sesame Street Day. It's today. Today, guys. Can I tell you how to get there? I can't tell you how to get there. I think there's Sesame Street in New York now. I'm not positive, but I could be wrong. Is it on the list? Maybe it's on our list. Let's see. Is there Cookie Monster used to have pointy teeth. Yep, I don't see. I don't know. I think we'll have to look it up to see if there is indeed a Sesame Street in New York. I think there, for some reason, I'm thinking there is. Morning D's a little bit late. We've been running like crazy around the house here, around Cyber-Recon global headquarters. We've been running like crazy, trying to get more and more content out, but it's just so many hours in the day. That's why I like to spend the morning with you guys, getting things up and running. Eric's here. We missed you last night, Eric. I understand you can't be there. In the courseware, we added a new lesson, and that lesson has one topic, and in that topic is all of the recorded sessions. So you can go to that first topic you're going to see there. The lesson is called Recorded Sessions. The topic is called Recorded Sessions. You can jump in there and you can see all of the recorded sessions. That seemed the best way to get it to you guys instead of trying to email. That's weird. Apparently that's pushing the camera down. When I lean on the table, I can do some magic tricks there. So go out there, check it out. I know you're missing the good stuff. This week, and I know things are going a little bit late. This week, the labs kick in. So getting into that categorize step. Getting into the category step, you're going to have to start doing the labs. You're going to have to start filling out the SSP. You're going to have to start doing things like figuring out information types, that kind of stuff coming to you this week. So got to get that done. Got to get it out there. Let's do the intro. Let's move things around a little bit, and then let's get on with the news, right? Let's get on with this bad boy. So here we go. Trying to get everything back. Make that song about 2 seconds longer so I can get everything moved around. Eric's saying, yeah, it's awesome. I think it's awesome too. Good group of people going through the courseware right now. Yeah, good things coming out. Good things coming out. Elmo is the only puppet that has testified before Congress. Did you know that? Did you know that? So the gaming industry, guys. Piper doesn't like the gaming industry for some reason. The gaming industry. Piper, can you stop? Here she comes, little dog in our neighborhood. They walk right against the fence every morning to antagonize Piper because they just know it will get her going. Anyhow, sorry, Piper's barking in the background. Talking about Capcom, talking about the gaming industry as a whole. The gaming industry, they're going to get you. You're going to reach into your pocket, and they're going to yank a pile of money out. It's going to be, it used to be, you know, 15, 20 bucks. Now it's 30, 50, 90, 100 more dollars per game. I know they're loaded with content. They're loaded with great things. But they get so much money, they've shown up on the ransomware scope, right? The ransomware folks have said, if you're going to have a whole bunch of money, we're going to want some of that. So this is from Cyware Social. Do we know who wrote this? Let's see who. We don't know who wrote this. No byline on this one. The international and digital technology have surely opened a new avenues for business. However, with greater opportunities come greater threats. This article will talk about how cyber criminals have zeroed in on the gaming industry. Why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money's at. So why do you run ransomware against the gaming industry? Because that's where the money's at. So Japanese game developer Capcom has suffered a cyber attack impacting its systems, including file and email servers. The firm was forced to shut down some of its internal network operations due to an attack by unknown culprits. The creator of Resident Evil and Street Fighter lost 1 terabyte of confidential data in the attack. I know that's not a lot anymore. That's probably one game. Bleeping Computer, we know Bleeping Computer, they're awesome, reported that Ragnar Locker ransomware was used in the attack. The ransom note contained details of the stolen files and provided a link to private data leak page of the ransomware's website, and then a link to the Tor negotiation site. So Capcom, guys, is under attack. Other notable attacks in the article include Revel ransomware gang went after Gaming Partners International, they supply gaming furniture, and allegedly took 540 gigabytes of technical and financial documentation. Egregor claimed to have hacked code of gaming titles from Abinon and Watch Dogs Legion. The group had, moreover, claimed, they want to get to Warface and Arena of Fate, some other stuff like that. And then mid-October, the forum of Alabon Online was breached and stole usernames and passwords. Just bad stuff going on. Big thing here is just locking stuff down, guys. You got to be able to lock stuff down. You're going to see the need for people in these gaming industries. We think about the gaming industries, and think about places where you have artists work. And I'm gonna say these game designers are in a lot of ways like artists. They're coders, and then they're artists, they're graphic artists. And a lot of times those guys don't like to be locked down. They don't like to have these controls in place. That's going to be a challenge for the security folks in these organizations, if these organizations even have developed security teams. But their number one asset, think about this, the asset these gaming companies have is intellectual property. It's the code they write. And if they don't protect that, they're out of business. So you got this delicate balance in the gaming industry where you've got people that have to just be cranking out code, cranking out graphics, cranking out a viable product, but you got to secure it, or else all that work that goes into one of these titles could be just taken and put on the interwebs. It's funny, the attack vector is SQL injection 58% of the time and local file inclusion 31% of the time. Top two web-based attack vectors were this is what they were in the webbing. In the gaming industry, that's how they generally were breached. That's how folks got to these guys. Web-based attacks are followed by DDoS attacks observed by Akamai. Over 3,000 DDoS attacks were evidenced between July 2019 and June 2020. usually spike during the holidays. Of course they spike during the holidays. That's when these guys are making their money. That's when they're selling the holiday releases of the games. That's when they're really pushing things. It's not the same type of ransomware. It's not where they've got onto your your website. They didn't get on your network and steal the data. They're just keeping people from getting on and buying product, which is just as bad. You can't do your job. Gaming industry project to be worth $200 billion by 2023. Constant attacks on gaming industry do not come as a surprise. However, security space is evolving. Gaming firms are focusing on security of their players. Moreover, gamers have started realizing the importance of MFA, multi-factor authentication, and are leveraging them. So we're seeing some changes in this. And this is yet another industry. We think about these industries, think about defense, and we think about intelligence, and we think about finance and pharmaceutical and medical. Automotive even, we think about these places where they've got high security because of what they've got. Think about gaming industry. Think about the newspapers. Think about news. Those are all places where their product is intellectual property. And once you take that, it's there's nothing left, right? It's gone. So that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing in this case. Just know that these guys being the ransomware actors are not exclusive to who they're attacking. They're going to go where the money's at. And once they realize money's in gaming, I mean, think about it. You're paying $80, $90, $200 for a game. That money's going somewhere. It's going into the coffers. And we look at the revenue, which is the number one thing these attackers are looking at now, is revenues of the firms that they can attack or they can buy access to, which is more likely the case now. And then they go for it. They buy the access and they're in there and they're stealing data. Crazy world we live in, guys. Crazy world. Crazy YouTube over there. So that takes just one story. That's all we're doing. One story a day. One story. Uno, por favor. I'm going to move that over there. That's going to allow me to move this up here. Excuse me. Allergies are in the air. So we want to talk about, we're going to talk about building our lab. And we got to build a lab. We're going to build a cyber lab to do our cyber work. Right? We want to do our cyber work. And why do we need to do this? Let me do something real quick. I need I'm going to do that. I'm going to make it like that. I'm going to be hanging out down here, maybe in this format, and we'll see how that works. Maybe we'll have to change it later. Maybe we won't. Gives me a little more space to move my arms and be dramatic with you guys. So, this Cyber Lab, part uno. And we're going to get things set up. So, what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about this. We're talking about virtualization. This is from VMware. There should be this is VMware's quote here. This is from VMware. Virtualization is the process of creating software-based or virtual representations of something, such as virtual applications, servers, storage, and networks. It is the single most effective way to reduce IT expenses while boosting efficiency and agility for small businesses, or all size businesses, sorry. Virtualization, once we learn virtualization, we can use it all over the place. We can use it in our corporate world where we virtualize servers to save money, or when we move to the cloud. The cloud is nothing but virtualized servers on someone else's hardware. So, and the other thing we can do is we can build a lab so that we can try out security tools without getting in trouble. And that's what we want to do. We want to not get in trouble. So, this is from our friends at NIST. This is NIST Special Publication 800-125. It's right out of there. And we're talking about bare metal versus hosted virtualization. And in this, we can see the difference. We can see the difference, and I don't know. Can I get a pen? I can't get a pen. Microsoft, you're not going to let me have a pen. Okay. So you can see my mouse. I guess that'll be the thing we talk about now. Bare metal or type 1 hypervisors. The hypervisor, you can see the hypervisor sitting with hardware, And then we have hypervisor sitting right on top of it. And we see this box that goes around this kind of hypervisor. That's the environment that we build with the hypervisor. And inside there we have a guest operating system, and we have an application on the guest operating system. And it's kind of nice and clean. We like bare metal. It's nice, it's easy, it's more efficient, it gives you more processing power, more memory, more storage for your guest operating systems, and not as much for the host, because the host is a very, very thin, slimmed down hypervisor sitting on top of the hardware. On a hosted or a Type 2 hypervisor, what we have is a host operating system that sits in between there. And hopefully you can see my mouse there. The host operating system is something like Windows or Linux or Mac. And it's there. And then the hypervisor is installed like any other application. You see the application here. Maybe this is Word. And right next to it's a hypervisor. So the hypervisor works like another application installed on Windows, installed on Mac, installed on Linux. And then within that hypervisor, same thing as we got on the other side here, we've got that box, and this is a pinned out environment. And in the old days, we didn't worry about anything being able to get outside of the box. Now we have to worry about that. There are escapes from this little box, but we want to make sure we're protected against those. But generally, inside that box, it's our own little environment. We can set it up, and we'll look at this in a second, so that items inside this little box can't talk to anything but items inside the little box, right? So as we see here, we have our guest operating system, our application, our guest operating system, our application. We can extract this one layer further if we do Docker, and then we just have applications that are virtualized. We're not talking about that today. That's for another day. So this is the general rundown. Type 1, Type 2, bare metal, hosted. Most of us are not going to have the equipment to run bare metal at home. Normally we want to have a server for that. We want to have, normally we're going to have something, we're going to want to run a hosted hypervisor. And that gives us the ability to still use our computer for everyday things, right? So we've got this hypervisor that sits there. When we turn it on, we'll use that for our lab. When we're done with our lab, we turn it off and all that stuff goes away, right? And then we can use our computer for word processing and surfing the web and PowerPoint, all those other things that we use it for, right? So in all of these cases, we talk about the hardware. The big parts about the hardware we're sharing, right? So all of these applications and these guest operating systems get slices, little pieces of the CPU, little pieces of the RAM, little pieces of the hard drive, and we set that up when we build our guest operating system. So things we need to learn the host operating system. That's going to be whatever hardware we have installed on our computer. For example, this computer is a Macintosh, so it's got the OS X, Mac OS. Windows is going to have probably Windows 10. Linux is going to be some form of Linux, Ubuntu, Red Hat, whatever. But on top of those, we're going to install our hypervisor. And the hypervisors are going to be responsible for slicing out a chunk of CPU, a chunk of RAM, and a chunk of hard drive. And we determine that when we build the guest operating system. So that's what we're going to say. We're going to say, okay, guest operating system 1, you're going to get one core. Maybe we have a 4, 8, 12 core CPU. We're going to give you one core. We're going to give you this much processing power. We're going to give you 2 gigabytes of RAM, and we're going to give you 40 gigabytes of hard drive space. And when we fire up that guest operating system, it thinks it's an actual system that only has those hardware components, right? So that's the beauty of this thing, right? That's the beauty. So there's a couple different ways we can look at this thing, right? So those enterprise solutions, normally we're going to talk about Type 1 hypervisors. And this is just giving you background so you can talk a little more about virtualization. So Type 1 hypervisors are going to be things like SolarWinds Virtualization Manager, SolarWinds Virtualization Manager, Microsoft Hyper-V, Oracle VM Server, Citrix Hypervisor, and VMware vSphere, which is kind of a big dog in the industry, right? But that's just so you know. That's if you've got that big environment, you've got giant servers that you're going to host 100 servers on, right? That's when you generally want to use these things. We can use them at home, certainly, but it's a little more than we want for our lab today. For our lab today, we're going to talk about home and desktop virtualization. And this is generally going to be a Type 2 hypervisor, something that's a host-based hypervisor. So we have things like Parallel, that works on Mac, We have VMware Fusion that works on Mac. We have VMware Workstation, that should say Windows after it, that works on Windows. Virtual PC is a Microsoft product. It works on Windows, and the one I like is Oracle's Virtualbox, right? And I like that because it works on Linux, it works on Mac, and it works on Windows. So we can talk about one platform, one hypervisor that works on everything. The other thing that's really nice about Oracle Virtualbox is it's free. It comes to you at the low, low price of free 95. Free 95. So it's open source. It's free like free beer. So we can go out and we can use it. We don't have to pay for it. Parallels, VMware, VMware Fusion, and VMware Workstation, they're all going to cost you. Parallels is like $100 a year, right? Virtual PC, I think, is still free from Microsoft. You can still go out and get Virtual PC if you want to do things on your Windows box. You can go get Virtual PC. I like I like Oracle. I like Virtualbox because it's one hypervisor you need to learn. And if you're working on Windows or you're working on Linux or you're working on Mac, you kind of know how it works, right? It's generally the same on all of those. So Virtualbox, you can get it at virtualbox.org, and we'll go there in just a minute. So what we're talking about is we're going to build this kind of lab. And we're going to start maybe with these 3 machines, but it depends on your hardware, what you can build, right? So we're going to start with this kind of tealish blue box. If you don't know what that is, that's Cali Linux. And Cali Linux is a penetration testing distribution of Linux, right? So it's a Linux distro. It's free, which makes it nice for our lab, so we can do that. We can get that, and I'm getting dinged over here. Hopefully not that we're knocked offline or something like that. No, nothing like that. So it's free. We can get it. We can use it. It's cool. It's the folks at Offensive Security have built it. There's a ton of references and resources behind it, and it's got a ton. It's built for penetration testing. And we talk about a lot of the bad guys using the open source tools that are available. This is one of them. This is one of the top tools the bad guy's going to use when they're talking about open source tools for penetration testing, or not for actual attacks, I should say. So Kali Linux, we're going to learn a lot about Kali Linux in the coming months. We're going to get into Kali Linux. We're going to go through every single tool on Kali Linux, right? We're going to start with the basics, and we're going to move up. We're going to talk through their attack platform, right? The middle one, we know this is Microsoft Windows. We can either install a trial version of Microsoft Windows. We can, if you've got a full license of Microsoft Windows, we'll put Windows 10 on here. We'll get that going, and then Linux. Depending on how much processor power you've got, will depend on how many Linux versions. You can put Ubuntu on there. You can put Red Hat. You can put Mint. We can put all kinds of different versions of Linux. But because we have Windows and Linux, we're going to be able to do things like run Nmap scans from Kali Linux across those boxes, right? So if you have a smaller PC that doesn't have a lot of horsepower, you don't have a lot of RAM, you don't have a lot of processor speed, you don't have a lot of hard drive space, you probably only want to install Kali Linux and something like damn small Linux, DSL, something like that. A small operating system so you have a target, right? If you've got a lot of horsepower, you've got a lot of RAM, if you've got a lot of CPU power, if you've got a lot of hard drive space, or even just a moderate amount, running these 3 shouldn't be too bad. If you've got if you've got a big honking machine that can do all kinds of stuff, put more Linux boxes on there. It's going to give you more targets to work with. And the way we're doing this inside of VirtualBox, we got this perimeter around here. We've got, it's one of the questions that came up yesterday, where would be our authorization boundary? So if this lab was going through the RMF, this would be a good example. We draw our authorization boundary at VirtualBox. This green box would be our authorization boundary for our lab, right? It doesn't necessarily extend into the hardware. That hardware is an associated system that we're getting resources from. Or we could, if we want to, we could put the box all the way around the OS X, the Mac machine, and the lab. Now, I have the network card here because this is important to what we're doing. If we set up this VirtualBox, and we kind of go with the defaults that come out of the gate, we're going to have this connection, right? We're going to have a connection over here to the interweb, and we don't want that. We really don't. We don't want to be running something on Kali Linux and reach out to the internet and touch the wrong box, because then if you do that, you could go to jail, and we don't want that. So we don't want that connection. So we're going to set up our network interface card. And remember, these VirtualBox, these virtual machines see all of your hardware just like it belongs to them. So they're going to see you can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 virtual network cards on your virtual machine, and they will reach out to your host-based network card and use that to reach out to the internet. And we don't want to do that, right? So in VirtualBox, there are these types of network modes, right? Not attached, network address translation, internal networking, and host-only networking, right? So not attached, in this mode, Oracle reports the card's there. It says the network card is there, but it's like you plugged the cable out of it. You unplugged the network cable. So it looks like there's a network card there, but the cable has been unplugged. That's what that mode looks like. Network address translation, it treats your virtual boxes. They get their own internal IP address, internal private IP address, and then when it hits your network card, all of those communications going out to the interweb, out to the World Wide Web, get your network address. So everything coming out, you could have 8 VirtualBox. When they hit the network card, they get network address translation. That gets translated into your actual IP address, whatever it is on the network. We don't want that either, right? Because we don't want to reach out to the internet. I'm going to skip the next one. I'm going to go to host-only network, and that's where our virtual environment can talk to our host environment. So in this case, our lab can reach out and talk to our host operating system. In our case, it's going to be the Macintosh that we're running on. We don't want that either. We don't want these tools touching our actual physical workstation that we have. So the only option we have left out of these ones is internal networking. That's where the virtual machines can only see and talk to other virtual machines within our lab. So we're going to set up internal networking only on our machines when we set them up. There's some other modes in VirtualBox: generic networking, UDP tunneling, and VDE, or virtual distributed Ethernet. I'm not going to go into these because they are not anything we're going to deal with. So when we think about this, we're thinking about internal networking only, right? So references we talked about in this little kind of overview. We talked about SP800, 125, VMware, VirtualBox, and Kali Linux. Dang it, I didn't put the link there, but you got to Offensive Security and grab that. So I'm going to end the show, and we're going to jump into the part that gets everybody trouble. This is where everyone gets in trouble, right? This is when we go to the hands-on. This is when we go to let's go actually install this bad boy, right? So I'm going to go, here we go. Here's our here's our web browser. So where we're going to go, if we go to VirtualBox, we're going to see that we can get VirtualBox 6.1.16 for Windows, for OS X, for Linux, or there's a special one for Solaris hosts, right? There's a bunch of different Linux distributions, depending on what you want. But what we're going to want, we want OS X because we're running Mac, right? I went ahead because these can take a while to download. I went ahead and downloaded this already, right? So let's get this off of the screen. And I'm gonna just open my downloads folder. Gets hidden behind my eCam stuff. There we go. And I'm gonna open up this VirtualBox DMG, our installation package. So this is, guys, first we're going through this live. You know, obviously there's the chance that this could go horribly wrong and crash and fail in live demo mode, right? So double click the icon, virtual package, right? It's going to give us some messaging. Hey, we're going to run a program to determine if this can be installed. We're going to continue. This will take. It's going to tell us how much we're. If you're worried about your hard drive space, pay attention to these things, right? We're okay. We got a bunch of hard drive space, so we're going to be on here. It's going to ask for our password. and we're going to install this thing, right? We're writing files, we're doing great and wonderful things. This is installing VirtualBox on our machine. So we're installing a Type 2 hypervisor, right? Program tried to load an external extension signed by Oracle America. We're going to open our security preferences. What did it tell us it wants to do? Oh, we got to unlock this. And we're going to allow that. And we'll lock that back up. And I can't go back. So close. We're going to keep that. Now let's try installing again. Let's see. Okay, it's going to tell us where we're going to put it. We're going to install this thing. Can't type this morning. Even though I created a shorter password just for today. Packages, validating packages, and our installation was successful. So we had to add a little bit of special permissions because we're doing this on Mac. Windows is going to ask for some. The process on Windows essentially and Linux is essentially the same, right? So we're doing it on a Mac, and we're going to close it. And we're going to say it's always a good practice once we're done installing these things. Go ahead and move them to trash. Move them to trash. There it goes. Bang. So now we should have VirtualBox. We can open VirtualBox. So here's our interface, right? We got a bunch of stuff. We can add a virtual machine, right? So we go in here, we can add. We are going to say, okay, we're going to allow that. We got to allow access to our folders, right? Oops, I don't want to add. I don't want to add. I actually want to do a new one, right? And in here we can call it, right, test machine. And then we can tell it where the folder is going to be. Where do we want this folder to be hosted at? By default, it's going to be under your profile in the VirtualBox VMs, right? And it's going to know at the start, it kind of knows what you need for each of these. If you need Windows, it kind of knows how much RAM you need. It kind of knows how much hard drive you need. It knows these things, right? So you can set this up, Windows, and then you can tell it what type of Windows, what flavor of Windows. Look at this. Nice and laid out all the way back to 3.1, other Windows, all the way up to Windows 2019 Server. So you can either do Windows 10, 64-bit, Windows 10, 32-bit. You take 64-bit. And as we go along, it's going to tell you, okay, because this is a virtual machine, how much, and I've got a bunch of RAM on this machine, as you can tell. I can go across here and I can give it all of my RAM, right? I give it all my RAM, and it's going to freak out and say, don't do that, right? Or we can give it just the minimum. It kind of knows the minimum amount of RAM that this Windows machine needs. So we can say, okay, continue. Do we want to create the virtual disk now or later? Well, let's say, we'll just say create it now. So what type, VDI or VHD or VDMK, depending on what kind we want, we'll just do VDI. Dynamically allocated, that means we won't allocate it right now. We'll do it as we need it. And then we can say again, how big is this machine hard drive going to be? 2 terabytes. It gives us kind of the initial size on its own. And I'm going to cancel now because I don't want to actually create this. The next step would be how much processor speed do we want, right? So I'm going to cancel that right now because what I want to do is earlier I went out to offensive security, right? And offensive security makes the Cali distribution, right? And we can get this in VMware. Talk about VMware. So here's the VMware images if we want the VMware images, or we can get the VirtualBox images. So we've got the 64-bit VirtualBox image and we've got the 32-bit VirtualBox image. They got these upside down. Hopefully I grabbed the 60. I wanted the 64-bit. I might have grabbed the on accident the 32-bit because I would have just getting it early in the morning. I would have thought the 64 would have been at the bottom. So I've got these downloaded already. So I go in here. And let's just add a machine. And I know it's in downloads. There's a bunch of our pictures. Where is our Cali image? Vector stocks. There we go. Cali. Oh, it doesn't want to open it. Here's our problem with import. Import source local file system. We're importing. Now I bet we'll be able to do it. We want it from downloads. There we go. There's our Cali. And this is the image we downloaded from the internet, right? Open that bad boy up and continue. Right? It's already going to be set, right? It from the folks at Offensive Security, they already set a bunch of preferences, right? 2 cores on the CPU, 2 gigs of RAM, DVD writer or DVD reader is on there. I know I don't have one. All this stuff is set, and then the virtual image where it's at, where the base folder is at, it's going to be in my profile under VirtualBox. Now I can import. I can just bring it in. Right? Do I agree with this? I'm going to agree with their licensing because I want to use their file. And it's going to be a minute. So we'll kick back and talk. What do you guys, okay, while this is running, what do you guys think so far about, is it terrible to set up this virtual lab? Is it, what are your thoughts on the virtual lab so far? Setting this up. A few seconds remaining. Almost there. So now if we look within our VirtualBox Manager, so inside VirtualBox Manager, we've got this system, right? And here's all the system preferences. Here's what's going on. In here, it's going to tell us our username and password. That's set by default, right? US keyboard layout. Tells us all the information about this virtual machine that was created by someone else. So we can create a virtual machine and we can share it with folks as well. So Offensive Security created this machine, and then now that we've got it here, right, we can say, let's go into settings, right? The thing we want to make sure is we want to make sure that our network card is off, right? We've got general, system, right? Here's our system information, our base memory, our optical drive, hard disk, all that stuff is in here. We want to go to networking. So this is, we're enabling our network adapter, and right now it's attached to NAT. So if we turn this machine on, it's going to reach out to the internet and it's going to reach out with our IP address, right? So we're going to say we want internal network, right? So we've got all these other choices, right? We want internal network. So we'll save that. Now it's saved. We see down here under adapter 1, and like I said, you can create as many adapters as you want. And Alex, thanks for responding, Alex. I appreciate that. Setting up the lab. This is step 1 of getting the good stuff. Before we go in and test any of these tools, we train on any of these tools, we want a safe environment to do this. And some people have never done this before. I've done this before, pretty easy setup. If you follow the steps, very nice stuff. Yeah, so it's not too hard. And so our first step is creating this Cali box. So now within our Mac machine, we've got a virtual box, a area that's pinned off, and inside that box is a Cali Linux virtual machine that can't talk to the outside because we set it to internal only. So if we hit start now, it's going to go along. Oh, this is the normal problems we have, right, with the live world. What's our details? USB controller because part of the saved VM state. No, it can't find our USB controller. Okay, so let's figure out. Let's go to settings. And let's find where the USB is at. Pointing device, USB tablet. Let's say mouse. See if it's anywhere else. Display, storage, audio, network, ports. See there. Okay, here we go. So we can start. Throw us an error on the USB. Machine. Implemented USB 2 controller is not found. It's part of the save state. Extension pack. We didn't. We put the. I don't think we put the extension pack on. That may be our next step. We don't have the virtual Oracle VM VirtualBox extension pack. Well, it looks like that is going to be our next step, is troubleshooting this problem. So Oracle VirtualBox extension pack. Here's my VirtualBox extension pack. There we go. We've got to get this extension pack, and that's what we're missing. So Oracle VM VirtualBox extension pack support USB 2.0 and USB 3.0 devices. And right there, we've got our virtual extension pack. Let's install it. It might freak out because we have it open. Okay, tell that okay. I'm going to close VirtualBox, quit VirtualBox, and then I'm going to open it up again to make sure that the extension pack loaded. And let's see where we're at now. It's running. Let's show it. There, it's way over here. We've got, we're going to say, would like to use the microphone, okay. I'm going to say capture the mouse, and we've got a little display issue going. We've got a tiny machine here. Look at that. We've got to fix our display. So that's something we're going to have to fix, our display. But if we look, it's... Yeah, we've got a display issue, so we're going to fix our display. Some stuff we have to do. It's going to be, that's why this is part one. Some stuff we've got to do. We've got to fix our display settings. But we can see we've got Cali running here in the background. It's just very small, right? So this is where we're going to kind of put a pause in it right now, because we'll finish on tomorrow. We'll finish troubleshooting the display settings. And then we'll install one more version. We'll put a version of Linux on there, a small version of Linux, maybe Mint or DSL, that will allow us to have a target to run our tools against. So that's what we're going to continue on next week at this time on Tuesday. We're going to keep building our virtual lab. So hope to see you then. Dee is telling me, don't forget to mention Trivia Night change. We said the 18th. I want to say something before, but forgot. I said it yesterday. I've got to remember it today. Things have changed around. We moved things around. Trivia Night is the 18th. It's Wednesday the 18th. Be there or be square. Trivia Night back to the 18th. We had to do it because of conflict at work. It kind of caused some issues, so we got it back on the 18th. We had to move things around, like Eric found out. We had to move the RMF live session back to Monday. Got to have Tuesdays and Thursdays open right now for the next 11 weeks or so. But anyways, that's where we're at, guys. Hopefully you found some use in this. It's part one. It's going to get us set up to where we have this lab that we can use to run our tools. So it's going to take probably one more session to get it set up before we can jump into Nmap. But we want to be able to have a system that we can scan with Nmap. It doesn't make a lot of sense to scan nothingness. It doesn't. So when we get to Nmap, that's I think actually Ping I think is our first tool. Ping is the first thing we'll do, but then we'll get on with Nmap. So anyways, hopefully you found it useful this morning. Hopefully it was good news for you. If you did like it, hit that subscribe over there. Mako's changed up our logo so it looks a wee bit different. But hit that subscribe button. It looks like the Cyber-Recon logo right over there. Share with your friends. If you have people that want to get in this, we're going to get into the good stuff now, guys. We're going to start digging into the good stuff. We're going to really be hitting the stuff. We're in the Tuesday sessions, we're going to be hitting the more technical stuff. And then in Thursday sessions, we're going to be hitting more of the RMF management kind of stuff. And then the controls kind of bridges both of them. We talk about controls and we talk about vulnerabilities. We talk about that stuff. It's both of them. And then Monday is obviously Security Plus. That's kind of both of them as well. Trivia night coming up. Go out there, take care of your friends, your family, your coworkers. Take care of each other. No, Alex, I would say thank you, sir. Thanks for being here early. I know you can't sleep, so that's why you're here. Take care of your friends, your family, coworkers, and we will see you back here bright and early tomorrow morning at 7:30 for your Cup of Cyber. Get your day going. Get you ready for the day. Don't forget, thank a Muppet while you're out there today, and we will see you tomorrow morning. Be good, guys.